Genie grind, I wish I'm getting rich, huh? Remember when I said I hit a lick, huh? I don't really wanna fuck the bitch, what? Willie went and made another hit, okay, like Prada on my motherfucking kid, huh? Louis on my motherfucking hip, huh? Curry how I dunk, no switch, hey, fucker gonna fuck that bitch, hey, if you ain't gon' fuck with me, you a dumb fuck, put up a hit up for that one punch, look at my bank and I'm getting dumb rich, and I'm gonna count it up till 100.
We begin with a almost testimony. A mother staring out into an endless room, her chair futuristic and her hair graying. A man comes and sits next in front of her, his glasses speculating that of which she could not understand herself. You do not have to fear me, miss. Please, go on. I have been wanting to know about this boy for much of my years. You sound just like him. If you really want to know about the boy, I'll tell you. Even she was putting him off. He can never sit comfortably in the chair, nor any, after what he's heard from her. As a psychologist, you have to understand I'm here to help you. We have to move on. Please, tell me. Fine. You see, the boy, Deku, whatever he was just like every other child when he was born. Well, and a huge appetite at that. Deku would always charge in, his head full of bluster. You could tell his heart was massive by how he cared for each one that he came across. Whenever he would stomp on something, he would stay behind to secure it. He was quite weird in that way. Not very social, but had what it took to be a leader. I always thought he was destined for greatness, like all the rest of the boys, and his friend Bakugo. But it was cut short. Deku and I were very excited to see what wonders would happen with his quirk. When the day came and he turned 4, we were already in the car, 6 a.m., ready to go. When we headed into the city, it only maximized the casualties. He was always a hungry boy, eating and eating. And then, an explosion. I can't. I understand, miss. You cannot remember past that, isn't that right? Yes. But from our tales, it seems like from the detail from our hero, who is long past, All Might, it seemed like his tale might actually tell what exactly happened. Maybe bring back some memories. Perhaps. Shall we? As he takes out the note, spreading it out in front of him. An old, wrinkly paper. It was horrifying. Now in the body of All Might we see the city on fire. Skyscrapers crashing down, millions watching on the cameras that soon cut out to fade to black. All Might trying to save as much as he can. A huge homunculus mass that coursed throughout the city continued its damage, destroying everything in its wake. This snake creature had its belly exposed, its massive rib cage that spanned a mile long, guiding throughout the city. It roared up into the night as he saw All for One battling with it himself. For this one time and one time only, I actually felt bad for All for One. Never thought I would say that. I rushed in. After saving as much as I could, all I could do was try to stop the calamity, whatever it may be. Even if that means teaming up with my worst enemy. Its massive body crushed both of us for only a moment. Both of our organs seemed to be letting loose as we both let out a breath of air. We looked to each other in absolute hatred, but looked back to the real threat and realized, fuck it. As then we both launched it as far as we could. Its body laying across the mountaintops, its snake-like face calmed into nothingness as its eyes went blank. I went to check it, see what it was. As its face opened up, the massive carcass started to foam away as it fell onto the mountaintop, molding into just simply a carcass of the past. A little boy slipped out from the tongue, his body still covered in mucus and what I can only assume was what it was all protecting. I then took the boy, knowing that leaving it out here would more than likely have it be endangered. I could not let anyone know of his situation or of what he was capable of. I took him in. As the days went by, the boy, every single time he got excited, I could see it inside of his eyes. Every time he got mad, he got happy. It seemed to spark and change him, mold him. He soon started to love dinosaurs, even. One of my co-workers, Knight, as we just called him, Knight, he kept bringing in dinosaur toys to keep him busy as we tried to figure out what to do. Was it our job to nurture him? It had to be so. Recently I had lost my son to that same villain that I helped. The pain drove me mad some days. The boy seemed to already know what this felt like. It seemed like he had seen a mad father before. I created a shock collar, or Knight did, I should say. The agency gave it to us personally. all the components that we needed. We never told them who was for or what. No questions asked. I never liked putting it on him, but it means that he could leave to see the outside world. Deku seemed to be so happy about that, happy enough to shock him. We felt horrible. Our hearts sunk into the backs of our throats as we just stood there and watched, realizing our mistake. But Deku held up his hand. Izuku, are you okay? I'm fine, Father. Can I please go out to see other people now? As long as I don't exude emotion, I'll be fine, right? Knight seems almost flabbergasted, seeing the amount of energy that was put into the collar dispersed so fast. Right. He takes Izuku into the world, as we called him as the code name Deku, for the tragedy that he had caused. The dampener on all of our days. Maybe it was cruel to call him that. Or perhaps it showed him why he should keep his emotions concealed in a way. We led him out into the city. Many days he would stay there. One day we actually found him playing with a girl. He had transformed into a velociraptor, one of his many favorites. We had found out how he actually does his shape-shifting. It's quite interesting. The more that he eats, the more that he can shape-shift into. We had him do more safe things. Stuff like apes or elephants. One time he even shapeshifted into a snake. It seems to go by genetics. As long as he can produce an emotion just like that creature of curiosity, he can become an elephant. Of survival, he can become a snake. Of hunger, he can become a wolf. When he discovered the dinosaurs, he had discovered multiple of them. Almost all of them required hunger, required so much more meat and everything else. He was on an all-meat diet by the end of the years. When he met that girl, I had never seen him smile as much. Although it terrified me to the core, it didn't seem like his shock collar went off. So I was happy, keeping my distance with my binoculars. I had not slowed down my heroing since that night, keeping myself awake every night, trying to be as good as I can. I just can't help but touch the feeling that I am losing. He goes on a bit of a rant, you can see. The psychologist now says to Izuku's mother, "We're gonna skip a few pages, alright? Alright." When he turns 14. And when he turned 14, we decided to actually ask him who the girl was. He had known her since he was almost 10. She seemed to be the same age as him, perfectly. Her blonde hair seemed to flow in the wind perfectly. He says that she's a fellow shapeshifter, one that can shapeshift into anybody, as long as she gets a certain something from them. Stuff like dandruff or whatever. All Might holds on to his hair, kind of like, "Is that so?" That is kind of worrying, Deku. We just wanted to make sure that she's not trying to use you, of course. Young Deku. She's not... Stop prying, please! Let me handle this. As almost 2 years later, when Deku was around 16, his shock collar only went off 2 years this time. 2 times this year. We think he's finally ready to enter back into society. It seems that he has gotten such a control over it. But the more control he has, the more that he eats. We're feeding him hundreds of dollars of meat every single day, almost. To be honest, it's quite hurting my budget. But as night starts to dim every single day, he comes back home telling us tales of his adventures with Toga. And we found a certain diary of his, detailing all of everything that he's done. Right here. The professor holds up a book, written down his name. It seemed to have been covered, half shapen in mud, and the other half of it scarred and flamed, but it was still open perfectly fine. Most of the pages were still inside. The mad scribblings on some of them, and then proper English on almost all of them. He wrote, after that point, after 16, they told him that he could fully control his emotions, and that he can do what he wants to, finally. Be let back, as long as he controls his emotions. To be honest, he's never controlled his emotions around Toga, although she's sort of his pad at this point. His go-to whenever he feels lonely. As Deku says, he had always felt a loneliness that never seemed to escape his mind. He always imagined, because he had no friends to tell him what was the right choice, a devil and an angel on his shoulders. Night had always told him that it was best to keep friends around and close to your heart, as Night tried his best to be a big brother. He was never always there, a hard worker for sure. He wrestled him day in and day out. Deku had nothing else to do but work out, trying to sate his hungering for meat, hungering for flesh. It was almost like another feeling. As we feel hunger, he feels these animal instincts to consume. He discovered that he could shapeshift into many horrible things. Mosasaurus, Gigantosaurus, even a T-Rex, as they've seen in the movies. It's all about the genetics. It's evolution. As he's while I'm writing this, I'm actually inside of, he's sitting inside of the VIP lounge, all watching the tryouts for all the new heroes, that are trying out, the students for the new year. He sees Bakugo destroying, and a tiny small smile starts to mark onto his face. He sees Momo and all the main cast making their way, destroying, and, well, quite honestly, being just so amazing that he can't control his excitement. He shapeshifts his hand into a claw and his other one into a monkey's, as he shifts that down into his pockets, making sure no one notices. The shock collar, he had long destroyed it along with Toga. She was good and handy with a pair set of tools after she overloaded it. He'd fallen maybe in love. He doesn't know. As he grins, as he looks up to the roof, his smile just can't escape his face. As he settles himself down, brushing off and tightening up his collar as he hears "test end," and looks up to see the scores just as he expected. He had seen a mysterious one, too. Todoroki is named. The son of Endeavor? Well, I guess he'll consider me his top enemy, won't he? Deku was prone to... Deku smiles, seeing all of the competition now lining up. The first year of school. Although he was born just a few years before everyone here, he's still excited to meet new friends. He already knows Aizawa. Mr. Knight? He bends down, seeing All Might Aizawa just like crawled up on the floor. As Aizawa actually opens up one eye, barely, and tells him, 5 more minutes. And he's just like, I'll set a timer, don't you worry. As he reaches down into his little book bag, grabbing out a timer, as then busts into the room Bakugo, who grabs out the timer out of his hand. As he burst into this corridor, basically, Kirishima also enters the room, very loud entrance, as all the loud characters all of a sudden just blast straight into his face. He lets out a big sigh as he pulls out another timer and shifts it to 5 minutes and places it on the teacher's resting place, on top of his head almost, making sure that he can't miss this one. He then tightens up his book bag as he turns around and sees Bakugo staring at him, confused. Do I know you? Well, no. No, I can't possibly know you. Is that you, Deku? What the hell? Where the hell have you been this whole time? As Deku looks up to Bakugo, kind of questioning also where he remembers Bakugo from. I'm sorry, I don't have the greatest of memory. What was your name? As he holds out his hand saying, I'm Deku. You're kidding me, right? As he slaps away Deku's hand. Deku balls up his hand into a fist and brings it to his chest, saying, well, that wasn't very nice. As Bakugo's like, yeah, no shit. Anyways, this is Kirishima, I guess. Hi. As Kirishima reaches in to have a handshake with Deku, as Deku slowly releases his hand from a ball and grabs onto Kirishima's. They make eye contact as Kirishima actually gets a shiver down his spine, seeing Deku's eyes, actually. Kirishima says, the hell's wrong with... Hey, everybody! This kid has some weird-ass eyes! As everybody start to shift around him, as people start flooding through the door now. Even kids from other classes that came by originally start to come in with everybody, as his eyes are kind of looping around each other. It seems to go into a mesmerizing circle, but its dot in the middle is white. His white eyes are a spectacle, honestly, for everyone. they can't exactly figure out why that is. Deku says that his quirk is actually to manipulate genetics. So if he wanted to, as he closes his eyes and opens them back up, they turn into green. He blinks again and turns them into red, blinks again and turns them into black. I can choose it to be anything, really. As all of them this just blows everybody's mind. As they start to make so much noise, and then the timer goes off, finally waking up Aizawa for the first day. Now, class goes by pretty simply for Deku. After all, I mean, nobody really knows who he is, so he doesn't have much problem with that, and all he has to really do is just keep to himself. Although, he came here to make friends. So, he's keen to make friends, and whoever may be the strongest or a great leader. Or whoever may have a kind heart. He makes friends with the people that he usually does. Uraraka, and then seeing Ida actually step up really conveyed that to him. Although Deku was known to be almost a freak kid, they didn't blame him too much. He said, as he says, his quirk can go haywire if he allows his emotions to go out. As he grips onto the neck brace, saying, "This is a response to that, almost." As everybody starts to do a laughing, trying to make him laugh competition, basically. Although most of them fail, he pity laughs for Uraraka's. After all, he does want her to, like him, and he wants many people to like him, honestly. So, when he loses to her, they all freak out, of course. Many days go by until it's almost time for the hero versus villain sort of test. Run by his own daddy, right? Now, when he faces up against Bakugo, he in the original won against Bakugo without his quirk, right? He now has the shapeshifting quirk, which allows him to basically change his genetics to look like anything, or to do anything. So this is not gonna, and this is also a Deku who has trained and is literally more physically built than he has ever been in the original timeline. Because of his genetics, he was able to speed along his, growth in that apartment, allowing him to have bulky muscles but a slim figure. It's almost a freak of nature if you were to see under his clothes. But all he does is simply grab onto, Bakugo and throw him out the window, honestly. Bakugo, not knowing how to use his sort of stabilizing explosions, is unable to run up in time before he is able to defeat Ida, allowing Uraraka to get the win. It was very simple and almost a statement that he had said. He doesn't even need to fight to win this. Of course, this puts Bakugo into a bad mood, starting I don't even know how long, year-long example where every single day Bakugo would challenge him to a fight, trying to prove himself again. Deku, however, didn't mean this as a threat. He meant this as an example to Todoroki. After all, he noticed Todoroki watching them. His eyes were able to see through the cameras, to see through the other part. Seeing Todoroki look in disgust as he saw Bakugo defeated like a simple child. As he walked away. In the later months of the first quarter, Deku was doing great. He had only had it happen once, where he had exuded too much emotion, and that was only one part-time where he was quite sad. This angered him so much where his sadness now was activating the collar, and he broke the collar in anger after it shocked him too much. He exploded out into a physical mass of just malicious, just parts of a human being. Recombining his body again after All Might gets there, pretending like nothing happened. He told him that maybe he could go without the neck brace for a while. And All Might agreed, trying to be the better father here. Soon, the months ended on a day that was not rainy, but still sad. As they all got their hero costumes, Deku had gotten his. A very long, very stretchy costume, allowing him to shapeshift into whatever he wants to, and it would shape into whatever it needed to cover. It was able to stop bullets at some points around his chest, although he had figured out how to stop bullets with his skin long ago, able to harden it to the point of a rhino's horn. If he focused, he could be able to do that. Even surviving Bakugo's explosions. He called it Iron Skin. As the bus stops and they all exit out into the UA, the testing grounds, where they would be thrown through multiple trials, all of which consisting of rescue missions, defeating different villains. But while she, the newest example of a top hero, is explaining exactly where they are, they hear a darkness spreading across, anchoring itself down and then opening up like an old eye awakening and seeing the light. Its single tear shaped into a man with hands covering his entire body. He stretched out his arm as Deku's eyes tensed. No way. He felt like he knew this person. He was unable to push Ida out of the way this time. As the portals open up below them, and Shigaraki entered. Deku placed back onto the ship again. Deku looks out to see the bridge, this massive hull of the ship. He's on top of it as he looks down upon the river. Everyone starting to plow their way through the water, grinning and waiting to kill him. He could tell the blood in their eyes. Sui's still stuck in the water, as Mineta finally actually chose to save her. He looks down and sees all of these villains in the water, grabbing onto Sui, trying to pull her down with them. I can't do it. As he feels the rage inside of him, as he knows Sui. Don't you touch her like that. As his voice starts to grumble and crack, his face starts to enlarge. I can't. Don't you fucking dare touch her. And for the first time, he lets go. His body starts to form fins. He slams into the water, his body made out of this thick layer of white, a mosasaurus, as it clamps down its jaws, slicing 50 of them in half with one bite. His entire body filled with scars soon as they fought for their lives. He destroyed every single one of them without a single thought, swimming around in a circle, creating a tornado under the water, sinking them all down. I can't stop it. I can't stop eating. I must consume. As it starts to consume his mind, the last ones of them were killed in horrible slaughter. It continued until he was finally soothed. After a few minutes, he rose out of the ocean, out of the water, onto the beach. He finally lets go of his breath. He holds his hand up to his chest. He feels pain, but satisfaction. He could still taste every single part of them. The arms are especially tasty. Not only are the organs, too. Stop thinking like this, as he thrusts his hand onto his head as he calms down, trying to... Did they get Sui? As he turns around, seeing Sui coughing up water, and Mineta barely hanging on to. He runs over to them, apologizing 1,000 times. And as they look up to him in fear now, as he holds himself before he's able to touch them, as they recoiled away from him. What was that, dude? What are you? Sui says, in fear. I'm sorry. As he turns away, he gulps down his last breath of a hunk of meat that was left in his teeth. He made sure to try to keep it away from them, but it was hard to. They see the blood streaming down from his mouth. He wants to turn around. He wants to tell them, but he can't. I have to go. As he looks down, he looks over to see the battlefield. Aizawa taking down Shigaraki, holding on to Girigiri's chest, trying to throw him off to the side until he's bodied by the Nomu that suddenly comes out of nowhere. Its freakish face and animal-like parts, and all of it seemed to be flexed by its muscles. Its frames, it's nonsensical. I can't watch this happen to him, as he sees the Nomu raise up its hand another time, trying to slam down onto Knight, as he charges straight into the Nomu, blasting him off, throwing him a few yards away, but it looks up and gawks at him like a bird. Deku had hit him with it as hard as he could with his ape arm. As he returns it back to normal, he looks over to see Knight standing up. Take care of him, kid, alright? I'll take care of these two. As he brushes past Deku, Deku then looks up to see the Nomu charging right back at him. He grapples with it, both hands, as he's slowly charged into the ground. Deku starts using all of his mutators that he knows. Gorilla strength, rhinoceros, anything. as he finally is starting to be crushed by the weight of it. For almost minutes that goes by, he is crushed slowly as his feet drive down into the ground. He's being overpopulated by this thing. Its overwhelming strength starts to surround him. I can't breathe, as he releases more and more anger, thinking about what his classmates would think of him, what they're going to think of him, as these tentacles spread out from his back, two of them grabbing onto the Nomu, pulling him up off of the ground and slamming him down face first. I can't let you hurt any of them. Not Knight. Not Vendetta. And certainly not All Might. As he brings his fist to his face, the Nomu slowly getting out of the cavern that he was placed in. Deku starts to transform as his face starts to take more of a dinosaur length. His nails start to grow and shape into that of a velociraptor. But then he goes farther. As his clothes start to stretch even more, he turns closer to something of an Allosaurus. Fast and powerful. As he jumps straight into the Nomu, right as it got up, it grabs onto his head as it's bashed into the wall, causing huge earthquakes throughout the entire arena. By this time, most of the villains were starting to be on the back foot. As Deku consecutively pounded down onto the Nomu, on the final swipe down, it's grabbed. As it looks straight into his Allosaurus eyes, he grabs onto the massive bulk of his head, starting to lift Deku into the air, slowly and steadily bringing him to a halt as he throws him over yonder onto his back, breaking most of his rib cage as he is now laid just almost splayed out for death on the ground. The Nomu, out of breath, walks over, gawking and putting up his hand to strike him one last time as he shapeshifts fast into his normal human form, and then shapeshifts into that of a light avian bird, jumping off of into the long Alamo that was breaching through the canyon that they were in. As he flows throughout the water close to it, he can hear the Nomu tracking him down. As he looks up and finally sees the Nomu grabbing onto him, the Nomu looks down as he is currently being crushed in the hand of the Nomu. The Nomu jumps up and goes deeper into the cavern. As Deku is currently being flown through the cavern, finding a secret entrance that they had entered through. Not only had they teleported here, but they had planned out exactly where to go just through this secret entrance. A massive sewer grate that led probably to the city. Deku was close to being captured, but he wouldn't let them happen. As he slowly starts to transform, if he lets himself go, if he doesn't do this, they're going to come after All Might. They're gonna kill his father. They're gonna kill Aizawa. As his eyes spark into red, suddenly turning into a Gigantosaurus. As now, out of the hands of Nomu, the Nomu looks up, dumbfounded at Deku. As Deku clamps down onto him with his massive jaws. it seemed over. Just a massive, hulking, just bite comes down onto the Nomu. It seemed unable to contain Deku anymore, chomping off his legs and now throwing him against the wall of the cavern. It crumples, some of the boulders fall down and hit onto Deku's head, giving him a massive scar across his face. As he looks over and sees the Nomu now retreating out of the cavern, Deku says, "No, you don't!" Shapeshifting his wings onto him and shapeshifting back into his normal form. He shapeshifts even further into a small bird as he was before. Even though his wings are broken, he still charges up the mountain, breaking them even more. And as he falls onto the edge, he looks up and sees the Nomu as Nomu looks down and sees Deku in this weakened state. Deku starts shapeshifting back into the Gigantosaurus, roaring into the face of the Nomu. But the Nomu was not afraid. It was waiting for this, wasn't it? As the Nomu then clashes with the massive head of Deku. He tried pushing as hard as he could, but it was no use. He seemed adrenaline rushed as he's pushed closer and closer to the ridge. He then gets a spike of adrenaline. He sees Toga! As he throws the Nomu off to the side, and rushes over to Toga, shapeshifting into a velociraptor, and speeds up to her side. As she is right next to the cliff also. He says, "Oh my god, thank God. No, wait, you shouldn't be here. Listen, you have to get out of here as fast as you can. There's this thing called a Nomu, and I know what's happening, Deku." "What?" "I know what's happening. I'm here to help." As she smiles and looks up to him, he says, "Oh, thank God." He smiles and looks and turns around to see the Nomu brushing all of the dust off of it. Its legs now reattaching back to it like an inhumane creature that it is. It looks to him with rage and starts charging straight at him. He shifts into a massive monkey, now readied up for it, knowing that he is defending the one that he loves. As he clashes with the Nomu one last time, he could feel the breeze flow through his hair. Knowing that she's behind him gives him all the confidence that he needs. The pain may be harsh, he may be stubborn, but he will. He starts to feel before he could finish any of his thoughts, he feels a stab and pain in his back. His vision starts to go blurry. What? He starts to collapse, his head bobbing from left to right as the Nomu stops attacking. He looks back, trying to see where it came from, feeling on his back a knife long enough to pierce his lungs. As he looks up and sees his hand covered in blood, he starts walking backwards, trying to gain some distance, but his brain can't compute as he looks up and sees Toga standing there. A sad look in her eye. He falls off of the cliff, slowly falling farther and farther, until finally a meteoric kaboom. He laid in that state for what seemed like days, staring up at the sky, the dome still covering everything. Shigaraki, Tomura, Kirigiri, they both stood above him, talking to Toga as the Nomu left through the portal. To submit your final, to join the League of Villains, your final test. Kill him. As he unsheathes the knife from his back, he lets Toga grab onto it. She raises it as far and as high as she could, and stabs it down onto his chest. Confusion and anger fill his mind as she drags it farther. It's splitting his entire chest in half. His blood covering her. A mangled mess of a man. He's just sitting there, looking up at the sky as his blood, the only thing overcasted. They left through the portal, but you didn't see anything. All he saw was the sky. He closed his eyes, but only for a moment. He wanted sleep. It was like wanting after having a good night's sleep and then being able to sleep even more. He felt as his blood drained out, filling the river. All right. I think that's going to finish it for right now. Thank you for watching, really. This has been 52 minutes of recording time, and I think it's time to stop it there. Thank you so much for watching. Really, it has been a pleasure to read this for you and to create this what if. I will soon be opening up a part 2. Please stick around for that. As always, for your enjoyment,